Here we go. What is going on? Cover One crew. Chris Chow's back again. Happy Saturday to everybody. And I mean, there's 2 weeks left, baby. 2 weeks left until the fantasy football playoffs. Got to get you ready. What are we talking today? Of course it is start, sit, lineup advice for this week 13. And I mean, this is the week. It's heart attack season is what it is for all us fantasy players trying to get into the postseason. And you got to love it, man. Money's on the line. Big money leagues on the line. You got to love that too, man. So do me that favor, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button as we continue to grow this channel. Do not go anywhere in the offseason. Got you covered as well. I am an NFL draft scout, so I will break down all the collegiate players coming into play in the NFL draft. But what do you guys say we talk a little Week 13 starts it to get you ready for this week's contest? Like I said, man, heart attack season has approached and is upon us. This is going to be difficult because a lot of people are trying to scramble their way into the fantasy playoffs on the bye week this week. Only 2 clubs, Arizona and Carolina, so it's not dreadful next week. It's bipocalypse again next week, so get ready. You gotta win this week. This is the week. If you're dying to get that win, this is the week to have them. Let's start with those Atlanta Falcons taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Marcus Mariota, I got him as a low risk this week. Yes, he's been up and down the last several, but I do believe this contest, he does have an ability to at least, attempt to put up a good threshold of 15 to 20 points. If you have other options that are better, obviously the bye week trouble isn't as great, so I mean, it's okay, but I do not mind starting a Marcus Mariota. Cordero Patterson has been a little bit up and down. He's got a mid-level risk. I mean, if you have better options, I'm looking in that direction. If you don't, I completely understand, playing him because, I mean, he could pop off at any time. The Falcons just don't seem in sync at this point over the last several games. Drake London, mid-level risk, just not seeing the target share. He is on my bench this week. Olamide Zaccheaus, I believe I crippled his first name. I apologize, sir. Mid-level risk, but he does lead the Falcons in yardage, if you can believe it. And I've been telling you all the entire season as it continued to move forward, his PPR upside was there. It is a risk, man. Obviously, it's a flex play, but it's a massive risk. He will give you PPR upside, 72.2 points right now. It's not great, but I mean, there is potential if you really are desperate and looking for a play. The tight end, you're not playing Pruitt because it's not Truitt. You can't do it with Pruitt. I'm telling you. I'll move on to these Baltimore Ravens going up against the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos are in a deep mess. They're going to be firing their coach, but, I mean, we got to start talking about these Ravens, man. Should they be firing their coach? I'm just kidding. But it's not good, man. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens dropping yet another lead. The 4th time this year they've dropped a lead and lost the contest, losing to the Jaguars last week. Lamar Jackson still is a low-risk play, even though we are, like, biting our nails off every time he does perform and play. Because, I mean, we're waiting for the 20-plus, so we're waiting for the 40-plus. Hasn't happened since, like, week 3. Lamar Jackson definitely needs a bounce-back, get-right game. And the Denver Broncos, they got nothing else to play for. Russell Wilson has lost the locker room. Nathaniel Hackett can't coach his way out of nothing. So I do got Lamar Jackson as a low risk. I think he's going to have a very good day. Kenyon Drake, Gus Edwards, mid-level risks, both for me right now. Gus Edwards does get the better appeal to start if you're looking for the running back to play in this contest. I'm going Gus Edwards. Even though he did fumble the ball, the coaching staff does love themselves some Edwards, and they will give him volume where Kenyon Drake will see his role diminish once again to being the spell back. Devin Duvernay, high risk. I'm not playing him. He hasn't done anything in weeks. You cannot touch that man. Demarcus Robinson does have a mid-level risk because he does possess some PPR upside, and it's good. They look for him in the red zone also. So as long as this pass game can figure itself out, because right now they're in their own way. They cannot figure it out. Lamar Jackson needs to play a lot better. Mark Andrews, low risk. He dropped a touchdown pass last week, which was hurtful to all of us, but he's a low risk. You got to start him this week versus the lowly Denver Broncos. The Chicago Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers, and the Bears got some good news followed with that bad news. Darnell Mooney is out for the season with an injury. Justin Fields, he practiced all week, and he's limited. No questionable tag, which is interesting, but I still got him as an injury risk. Yes, he's probably good to go. Yes, you probably could start him, especially against Green Bay. Do you want to risk it? Do you want to chance it? Especially in the state you could be in, looking for wins. It's a very risky play for me, even though Fields could give you the 35 points, 30 to 35 points. It's just a big risk based on the injury to the shoulder. It's not good news. I would look elsewhere because the injury risk could be one hit and he could be out of the game and foil your day. So I'm looking elsewhere instead of a Justin Fields. Dave Montgomery does get a low-level risk for me. They're going to run the ball, and Green Bay is susceptible to giving up some good yardage on the ground. I think they're going to have a a scheme plan ready to at least, keep Justin Fields upright in this contest, and that will start with David Montgomery. Tristan Ebner, high risk. Byron Pringle, high risk. Dante Pittis, high risk. I'm not touching any of these guys this week. No way, no how. Chase Claypool, though, he does get the mid-level opportunity for me. Now that he's been there a few weeks, he knows the system a little bit better. Someone's going to have to take the target share from a Darnell Mooney, and I got to think it's going to be Chase Claypool. Even though Pettis and Pringle have been there longer, I got to think that Claypool's got to be the guy to step up. He's got a mid-level risk for me. Cole Kmet, another mid-level risk. He's kind of faded back to his old, terrible ways of not giving us point production. He's got a mid-level against Green Bay, who is, able to give up points to the tight end spot. We could see Kmet find his way into the end zone this week as well. Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the better games on Sunday. Joey B, this is a big one, the revenge game for the Chiefs. They want their revenge. Joey B wants to stick it to him again. Low risk for Joey B. 10 boom games. He's been an absolute stellar quarterback this year. He's in the elite category. We know this. It's Allen, it's Mahomes, and it's Joe Burrow and others. Justin Herbert potentially in that category of elite quarterbacks. Joey B is elite, no question about that. Low-level risk. You're playing him every week. Joe Mixon does pull the injury risk this week off the concussion, saying that there is a possibility he is going to play. You got to watch that as, the day does go by. He should suit up is what I'm hearing, but I mean, definitely have your, bets hedged if he does not go. Sam J. Pirine, he would be a great volume play if Mixon does sit again, so I got him risked here as a Mixon risk. Never had that risk before, but I mean, it's all determined on if Joe Mixon is going to suit up. If he suits up, if he doesn't suit up, I should say, Pirine is your guy. If he does, then Pirine's just the spell back in that case. Jamar Chase should be good to go. They're saying all things considering he should be good on this day. I got a mid-level risk only because I want to see the snap count. They could baby him in this game just to get his footing back. He's been off for about, 3-4 weeks, so they might want to, put him on a snap count and a play count. So, I mean, for me, you're going to play him if he plays, obviously, but temper the expectations on a mid-level risk. T. Higgins, low-level risk. He's an alpha. He's a wide receiver 1 on any other team that does not have Jamar Chase. You're firing up T. Higgins this week as well. Tyler Boyd does get a mid-level risk because Chase could be used as that decoy where Tyler Boyd could see his target share increased as well. If Chase does get going without any setbacks, then Boyd is going to, foil your day as well. Going to be very difficult to trust. I got a mid-level risk in that respect. Hayden Hurst, mid-level to high risk. I should have slashed that as a high risk. Because with Chase back, his target share does, dip in the toilet. So, I mean, it is tough to trust a Hayden Hurst outside of TD and red zone appeal, man. Cleveland Browns taking on the Houston Texans, and all the talk is about Deshaun Watson coming back from his lengthy suspension, now taking on his former club in Houston. What do we expect? I mean, it's very difficult to, sit here and say that Watson's just going to light the stage on fire because he hasn't played football in 2 years competitively with all the time he's had off. So, I mean, mid-level risk, I'm going to say, he'll at least probably throw 1 touchdown because it is the Texans. Texans dealing with some injuries on the back end. Stingley, I believe, is not suiting up in this contest, so there will be open lanes for Watson to throw. Nick Chubb, he's got a low level, or I should say for Watson, if you do have him and you've been holding him this whole time, I guess it's time to suit him up and play him in your fantasy squad, but I would definitely temper those expectations because he could be having a lot of rust on that arm and finding, open receivers down the field. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I'm giving low risks to them this week. This game could definitely be a blowout of sorts, meaning that Kareem Hunt finally could get us another game back over the 10-point threshold. We've been dying for it. It's been 7 weeks that we haven't seen it happen. He had 2 boom games the entire year. Obviously, Chubb, you're starting, you're firing him up, but I think Kareem Hunt, if this game does get out of hand, we'll see a lot of carries and a lot of touches as they try to kill the clock. Amari Cooper does get a low-level risk. We're going to see, man, what they got with Deshaun Watson and Cooper with some chemistry building. I do believe he's going to be able to support Cooper. Obviously, he is one of the best route runners in the entire league, so we'll see what Watson can do, but I'm firing up Cooper with Watson back, as is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's got a mid-level risk. DPJ, we'll see. Again, it's all scheme determined. We'll see how Watson does play. Mid-level risk, though, because DPJ has been playing very well. No David Njoku. He is out with an injury. Harrison Bryant does pull the high-level risk for me. I am not starting that man. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football. Why is Indianapolis on so many primetime games? You tell me. It's just gross. We throw up in our mouths every time we see it. But Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, low-level risks for me. You're firing up both these men. Tony Pollard, mid-level, only because Zeke is back to full health and he's finding the end zone, so he's crippling Tony Pollard's top-end upside right now, even though I do believe you could probably still fire up Pollard in your flex because they will have to do some change of pace, as the Indianapolis Colts front seven still is pretty good against the run. CeeDee Lamb, low-level risk. He's picking up his game, as is Prescott. He's finding him on the regular, and he's providing you very good point productivity every single week now. Noah Brown, high risk. Michael Gallup, low floor. You're not trusting that. Dalton Schultz has come back to life in a very big way. He is a low-level risk play for me. You got Dalton. You're firing him up as well because he could find the end zone on any given Sunday, man. The Denver Broncos, this piss-poor team and how it's run, I don't know why I keep trusting and thinking they're going to even cover a 1-point spread. They're just not showing up anymore. The defense is all yelling at Russell Wilson. High-level risk for Russ. Not even coming close to looking in his direction. Lat Murray gets a low-level risk. He's the only viable option on this offense as they will try to run. Baltimore's run defense isn't top end, so there will be holes. Lat did play for the Baltimore Ravens, so this could be something of a revenge game as well. This is revenge week, apparently. There's a lot of players playing and going up against their former clubs. Jerry Jeudy, injury risk right now, questionable on the ankle. He may not suit up. I don't like it, even if he does. I really want to see one game of him on the field, but even if he did, can Russ support him? Cortland Sutton, mid-level risk. He's dealing with a questionable tag because he was of an illness. He should be ready to go, though, but again, I don't like it. I would look in another direction. So Sutton does have opportunity to score touchdowns. It's just not happening in this offense. Hinton, high risk, and Greg Dulcich, high risks. I am not playing anybody from that Denver Broncos offense outside of Lat Murray with any type of level of confidence. The Detroit Lions taking on those Jacksonville Jaguars who upset the Ravens last week unbelievably. Jared Goff and these Lions did play exceptionally well versus the Buffalo Bills on Thanksgiving. They almost pulled out the victory. Jared Goff and this offense do look good. This team's got heart and they got some fight. Stay faithful, Detroit Lion fans. Your time is coming. You're building in the right way. Jared Goff this week, low-level risks. DeAndre Swift, he's been a pain in our backside. Do we play him this week? Yes, we do. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars, and, the last time Swift played the Jags, he had a very good game. It's just something about the Jags that Swift is able to get up for. I think it's a low risk. I think they're going to give him more touches as they move forward. It's what are you protecting him for at this point, Detroit? He obviously wasn't healthy enough, but they should give him more touches this week. I'm firing up DeAndre Swift, as I am with Jamal Williams, low-level risk, and an Amon-Ra St. Brown. All four of these individuals get a low-level risk because they're going to have to throw the ball around the field. They're going to try to have to keep this defense honest in Jacksonville that is also improving, so I like all those four to suit up this week. Josh Reynolds, he's got a high-level risk, but DJ Chark, he's got a revenge game. If you believe in revenge games like I do, he used to play for the Jags. Now's the time to stick it to him. He finds the end zone this week. I think it's almost 100%. I'm going to call it 98% assurance, I believe. DJ Chark finds the end zone in a revenge game because anybody likes to stick it to their team. No question about that. The Green Bay Packers taking on those Chicago Bears. Aaron Rodgers and his broken thumb, they've had better days. Not looking good, but I'm going to give him a low-level risk because this Bears defense let Mike White go up and down the field on them. Worse than a streetwalker got walked on, but I'm just telling y'all. Aaron Jones, you can fire up an Aaron Rodgers. I'm okay with that. Aaron Jones, stud start. I think he's going to, again, feast very well on this defense. That, again, injuries are littered all over this defense. Noah Jackson, now he's gone on the IR also. A.J. Dillon's starting to get back in the mix. He's got a mid-level risk. So as long as they're splitting up carries, and I think that's what they're going to do. It's going to be predicated upon the ground game because they're trying to protect Aaron Rodgers just a little bit. They said he's going to suit up. So, we'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers and that rib problem as well. So it's going to be very interesting. I would maybe look in another direction, but the matchup is so good for Aaron. You got to think he's at least going to throw you 2 touchdowns this week. Maybe one to Allen Lazard and Christian Watson. I got mid-level on Lazard, low risk for Watson. They're starting to figure out how to use this man, use his wheels in the open field. All this man does is catch touchdowns now, and you got to love it. High risk for Robert Tonyan. I do not like his services this week at all. The Houston Texans taking on those Cleveland Browns, and I got red all over this club. High risk for everybody except for Dameon Pierce. No Brandon Cooks in this contest. He is out due to injury, so you basically lost your deep threat to help the run game. Dameon Pierce is even very close to being a high risk for me. I don't like it. They're going to stack the box on a Kyle Allen. You can see the past several games, Pierce has had no open lanes to run through. I would definitely look in another direction. Philip Dorsett, Nico Collins, Chris Moore, Jordan Akins. You can do a lot better. Believe me, I do not like it, especially with Kyle Allen behind center, man. The Indianapolis Colts taking on those Dallas Cowboys, like I said, on Sunday Night Football. Matt Ryan does get a mid-level risk because even in garbage time they could produce, but I think he's going to be under heavy duress this week as well versus the Dallas Cowboys rush. That is very good. I do not like this start for Matt Ryan. Keep him on the wire or keep him on the bench. Jonathan Taylor, low risk, and Michael Pittman, low risk. Excuse me, you got to fire up these two because they're just all-stars at this point. Michael Pittman, maybe not so much. He's gaining steam, but you got to think that, Jeff Saturday's got to figure out a way to give his best players the opportunity to run and catch the ball. They both, turned out last week good enough to give you a solid point productivity. This week, I think they'll do it again, even if it is solely in garbage time. Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, high level, mid-level, respectively. Don't like it. Jelani Woods, he gets a high-level risk for me as well. You can't trust it till we see more consistency, even though it looks like he could be the number one tight end in this offense moving forward. The Jacksonville Jaguars taking on those Lions, like I mentioned. Excuse me. And Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to give him a low-level risk because he looked good, man. He was making some big boy throws last week, man. To win the game, that throw on the sideline, oh my goodness. Low-level risk. You can fire up a Trevor Lawrence this week. Travis Etienne, they're saying the foot is good. They were just, being cautious about it last game. Killed us last week. Do we trust it this week? I'm trusting it. It's the Lions. It's their very poor run defense, and I think Etienne has a very big day. Darrell Henderson, high-level risk, not there long enough. Hasty could be your change-of-pace guy if you're really struggling, but I would hope you wouldn't have to make that decision. Christian Kirk does get a low risk for me, while Zay Jones gets a mid-level risk. I think it's safe to play as Zay Jones this week as well. The PPR upside is definitely there to save you. 11 catches last week. I mean, why would they not go back to the well if it was working? Marvin Jones and Evan Ingram both get high-level risks. I am not playing them this week against the Detroit Lions, even though Marvin Jones has a revenge game this week as well. That's still tricky. I'm not doing that. I'm not touching it. I almost convinced myself as I was talking about this, but I'm not touching that whatsoever. The Kansas City Chiefs taking on those Cincinnati Bengals. Patrick Mahomes stud start as well as Travis Kelce stud start. They're the only two top-end consistent markers each and every week in this Kansas City offense. Isaiah Pacheco, mid-level risk. He's running very well. Not great, but very well, but he is finding opportunity to get into the end zone. I think you can fire up Pacheco this week again. Jerick McKinnon, you cannot high-level risk. Juju and MVS, mid-levels on both these men. I think he took a backseat. Juju did last week. Coming off the concussion, just wanted to get his feet under him again. This week, I think there is potential for Juju to get his role back to the way it was, but I do put mid-levels on these two men because I think it's going to be tough sledding against the Bengals defense. That isn't bad, but it's not overly great, man. Sky Moore still with the PPR upside. If you got the kahunas to play him in your flex, you're going to at least see 5 targets come his way, so hopefully he hauls in all 5 and gets you some yardage. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, the safest bets, like I said, on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Los Angeles Chargers taking on those Las Vegas Raiders. And Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, fire them up, baby. It's a fire sale. We're firing everybody up here, man. Low risk for Herbert, stud start for Eckler, low risks for Allen and Palmer. Now with no Mike Williams once again on the field due to that ankle injury. DeAndre Carter is an interesting character, mid-level risk. He's just been this consistent player for them, but now he is the 3rd, 4th target with a Gerald Everett on the field. So Carter he's going to see lesser coverage. That's the appeal here. So it's a very high-level risk when it comes to, how many targets he's going to see volume. But he finds the end zone and he gets himself 4 catches per game. So, for me, though, for my appetite, I'm going Keenan Allen. I'm going Josh Palmer. I'm not even thinking about it. Gerald Everett does get a mid-level risk. He's been disappointing me the last couple weeks, but he has been dealing with that groin injury. So he did catch the touchdown last week to win the game. But we'll see. We'll see what Gerald Everett does. I can feel comfortable enough to play him, but there's only so many balls that can go around, even though the Raiders' defense is suspect at best. The Los Angeles Rams, and the dump fire continues for the Super Bowl champs. Versus the Seattle Seahawks. You got Bryce Perkins, high-level risk. Cam Akers, high-level risk. Kyron Williams, PPR upside. At least there's some little shred of hope. Van Jefferson, mid-level risk. You got to throw to somebody, man. Allen Robinson also joined Cooper Kupp on the IR. Or did they even put Cooper Kupp on the IR? I don't even know at this point, but I don't think they did. I think Allen Robinson got on the IR. Cooper is just sitting there. But Van Jefferson, someone's got to catch the passes. Seattle's defense still very strong in the secondary. It's going to be a tough day for Perkins to move this ball around. I don't like any of it. Ben Skoranek, high-level risk. Tyler Higbee's been dealing with injuries. He's got a mid-level risk designation from me as well. I don't like the Rams offense at all, and it's going to be a very tough day again, as the Seattle Seahawks should be able to take care of business as they've been slumping as of late. The Las Vegas Raiders taking on those LA Chargers. Derek Carr, low risk. All the man does is win in overtime. Just get the game to overtime, and he's like 7-1. So, I mean, against the Chargers, I mean, it's a divisional contest. The Raiders are basically playing for pride. If they lose this game, it's basically season over in a very difficult AFC. The Chargers definitely need this win to stay in the hunt in the wild card race, but Derek Carr, low-level risk. Josh Jacobs dealing with that calf injury, coming off a 40-some, 42, 43-point event in half PBR last week. Unbelievable performance. Killed basically everybody that played against him. He should suit up this week. It probably was more of, resting vet rest days, keeping him limited to keep his legs fresh, to heal up the calf a little bit. He finished the game, won the game on the touchdown. They said he tweaked it, but I think he's going to be good to go. They'll fire him up this week. You're not benching Josh Jacobs, as you're not with Devontae Adams. Low-level risk for him as well. Mid-level for Hollins. High risk for Keelan Cole, and Foster Moreau does still get that TD upside. Caught himself a TD this past week. That's just kind of how they're going to utilize him. So, I mean, for, streaming tight end options, Foster Moreau was not a bad option to have on your bench as a stash, and hopefully, you cashed in on the touchdown scores. But Jacobs, Carr, and Adams should have a very good day against a, good LA Chargers team, and so it should be very pass happy in that contest. One of the other big games on the weekend is Miami, the Dolphins, the Fish, taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Here's the test, baby. Everyone, including myself, we're kind of questioning what these Miami Dolphins truly are. Let's see what they do against the unbelievable San Francisco 49ers defense. That is a ball-hawking, super fast unit that comes after the quarterback, locks up wide receivers, shuts down the run game. I'm putting a mid-level risk on a Tua Tagovailoa because he may not have Armstead as his left tackle. Blindside will not be protected. Tua's not overly mobile, so we'll see what he does against 49ers. Jeff Wilson does get a revenge game going up against the 49ers. I like it. I mean, anytime there's a revenge game, he was already talking some ish on social media saying that the Miami Dolphins have more talent than the 49ers, and the Niners did not take, great exception to that. They were angry. So Jeff Wilson trying to fire up his troops, revenge game for him. He's got 7 boom games this year. I think he could find the end zone as well. Raheem Mostert coming off that injury, but he does not have any limited tags. Mid-level risk for him. They're going to utilize both these men in the backfield as they have the past few weeks. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, both low risks. You're firing them up every single week, and I think they're still going to be able to find holes on this defense. Mike Gesicki's too difficult to trust. High-level risk for me. He scores, he doesn't even catch a pass, and then he scores again. It's just too inconsistent for my liking. The Minnesota Vikings taking on these New York Jets. Jets are 7-4, yo, and are they for real? The defense looks good. Sauce Gardner's holding more than anybody I've ever seen in my life, not getting any calls. But Kirk Cousins, I'm going to give him a mid-level risk. This is a very good defense that he's going to be facing. Lots of pass rush, lots of, good opportunities the defense does provide in New York. So Minnesota's going to have their hands full. I think and suspect they're going to have to use Dalvin Cook a lot in this game. Get Dalvin running early, get the play-action pass working, and then you could start feeding a Justin Jefferson. Low level for Dalvin, mid-level for Cousins. I got Justin Jefferson as a low-risk option. Would have had the stud start, but I want to see it versus Sauce. Sauce has been, answering the bell on every single player he's been facing, and I want to see it against JJ. If he can lock up JJ, oh, goodness, man. We got another Darrelle Revis in New York. No kidding, man. Adam Thielen, mid-level risk for me this week. There should be ample opportunity for PPR upside once again. He crossed the 100-point threshold in half PPR this past week, so he is trusted, no doubt. TJ Hawkinson, low-level risk. So if they do lock up a JJ and, Adam Thielen can't get open, TJ Hawkinson could find some ways against slower linebackers and safeties on the New York Jets. New Orleans Saints taking on the Tampa Bay Bucks on Monday Night Football. And goodness, what a show that was not against the 49ers, the Saints. Alvin Kamara fumbling on the goal line, fumbling in the midfield. Andy Dalton could not find anybody open. Chris Olave still does get a low-level risk because this Tampa Bay secondary has been gashed this season. I think Olave gets behind them a few times. You just got to hope that Andy can find him. I don't know why they're not playing Jameis at this point. He's healthy enough to play. He's got a better arm than Andy does, so Let's go Andy, man. Save our day. I think Olave missed his boom game last week by like 1.5 half PPR points, but this week he should get back above that. Olave almost at 130 points for a rookie is very good news. Jarvis Landry, PPR upside once again. Not good enough to start this week against Tampa Bay. I do like Olave over him as well, man. Juwan Johnson does not catch a pass after I threw support his way. I guess I'm the tight end jinxer, and I mean, it did happen that way. Mid-level risk. They're going to get back to the well, get back to the drawing board, and start to, make Andy throw some easier passes, get comfortable. Taysom Hill, again, boomer bust. You're not playing him anywhere you got him at this point. The New York Football Giants taking on the Washington Commanders, the Commies. Daniel Jones, I cannot call you by name no more, sir. It's back to Danny Pennies. Turning the ball over, not looking good, not reading the field. Yes, you got problems at your wide receiver room. And again, now this is a problem for Saquon Barkley. The stacked boxes are starting to, hurt his top-end appeal, but he still is a low-level risk for me, even though the Washington Commanders, they do have a very stout front seven, and they will make Barkley earn every yard that he does have. Daniel Jones, just don't turn that ball over. Make a couple completions to keep the defense honest, and you could do some damage. Daniel, I'm not playing. Saquon, you're starting, obviously. Darius Slayton dealing with illness. He should be fine. Mid-level risk for him. Richie James, he's got a knee issue, but he is the PPR guy. If you are in a full PPR league, you could fire up a Richie James versus Washington, and it could turn out to be decent. Not great, but decent levels, 12 to 13 points-ish for a Richie James. Kenny Golladay, you're not touching. Daniel Bellinger could be coming back from that eye injury, broken eye socket. Ouch. But, I mean, if he comes back, he was 41.4 points, and this offense definitely utilized him. When he went out, they completely abandoned the tight end position. So I think you could, wait another week to see if Bellinger does start, but he could be another streaming option as we go if you're struggling there. Also, man, the New York Jets taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Like I mentioned, Mike White, man. What do we say about Mike White? Zach Wilson was your friend, bro, and you totally made him look horrible. 24.8 points. Mike White was just dissecting and, tossing dimes all over the field versus the Bears in the rain last week. He looked good. What can you say? No Michael Carter this week. Doubtful due to an ankle injury, so it's Ty Johnson. It's Zonovan Knight. So here's how I see it, man. Volume upside for Knight, where PPR upside and touchdown appeal does go to a Ty Johnson. Ty's been in the New York system a little bit longer, so he understands what he needs to do. But it's all what you want, man. Do you really want to trust starting both these or one of these individuals versus the Vikings defense? I'm not really keen on it. I wasn't even keen starting a Michael Carter week in, week out at this point. But I mean, if you're desperate, I understand. I would likely lean to Ty Johnson just because of how they utilize him in the PPR game. Give you more upside where Knight would have the volume upside, potentially gaining over 100 yards. Hopefully he finds the end zone. So I mean, it's kind of pick your poison in that respect. Low-level risk for a Garrett Wilson. Calls out, the team. They start Mike White, and he's just booming all over the place. 111.7 points, 4 boom games for this man. Elijah Moore is back. You're starting Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore is back with a mid-level risk. Hey, they threw him the ball, and look, he scores touchdowns. This man's got some talent. Who knew? We knew. Zach Wilson just didn't know. But, I mean, Elijah Moore, you can this is a tough one. I got a mid-level risk. If you want to chance it, then I can't fault you. But I'm going to put him on the bench one more week just to see if Mike White can support it 2 weeks in a row. Minnesota's defense is a lot better than the Chicago Bears. So sit Elijah Moore. Keep him on your bench if you got him off the waiver wire. See if he does it one more time, and then we can maybe start talking about playing him in your flex. Corey Davis, Tyler Conklin, both high-level risks. I don't like the plays this week. Does not promote high-end upside. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tennessee Titans. Jalen Hurts, Mr. Boom himself. He is legit the only quarterback this season to boom in every single game that he's played. 11 games, 11 booms. And what is a boom for a quarterback? For those that you don't know, 15 points or more, and that's a boom for a quarterback in fantasy football. 11 straight. The rushing upside is just absolutely ridiculous. You do not spy this man. He's taken off to the races. You play man coverage against Jalen Hurts. He sees the backs turned. He's off to the races. Jalen Hurts stud start once again. Miles Sanders gets a low-level risk for me. Played very well last week. I caution it just a little bit because typically when we see Miles have a very strong day like he did last week, he does fall back down to earth and gets you under 10 to 11, 12 points. So if you if you have the potential, I have him as my RB4 in some leagues, so I have the ability to put him on the bench and use better options, but I get it. If you have like him as your RB1 or 2, you're going to fire up a Miles Sanders because he's played well enough to earn your trust this season. Kenneth Gainwell, he gets a high-level risk, but they just love utilizing him on the red zone. Miles Sanders could have 4 touchdowns last week, and they gave some to Kenny Gainwell, man. Disrespect to my guy, Miles Sanders. A.J. Brown, what I say, revenge game, stud start. You know A.J. Brown is geared up for this one. Yes, he has not played well. Yes, I've been very critical the past few weeks on this man, but apparently he was extremely sick and ill this past week, throwing up before the game. He was ill, man. He wasn't himself. This week should be fine. Lots of IVs, lots of juice. Get the juice pumping. Stud start, man. He should be able to light up his former team, and you know he wants this one bad. You're firing up A.J. Brown, and you're smiling once he starts hitting touchdowns. Devontae Smith is a low-level risk. Like we thought, he is taking all the target share left off by a Dallas Goedert. I thought maybe Jack Stoll could, see some of that sprinkle, but he's not seeing any of it. It is Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, low-level to stud start. Quez Watkins, high-level risk. It is more boomer bust. He does catch a lot of plays that are deep, and he's finding some success in the end zone, just not consistent enough for you to trust. Pittsburgh Steelers taking on those Atlanta Falcons. Kenny Pickett, what I tell y'all, man, he's playing some ball. He's looking good, making good throws, good decisions. Yes, it's mixed in with some inadequacy. He's still learning. But I got a low-level risk on Kenny Pickett versus the Falcons. I think he's going to be able to move this ball quite well in a dome. He's going to do wonders for this offense. He does have top-end chemistry with a George Pickens. He started picking up his chemistry with Deontay last week. I got low levels on both Deontay and a George Pickens. They're going to be able to feast up a little dessert cold to these Atlanta Falcons, whose season is basically done. 5-7, they're fighting, but they're not going anywhere. We know this. Najee Harris does get an injury risk. Hard to trust, man. Yes, he did find the end zone last week to save your day, but Jalen Warren, high-level risk unless Najee does sit. We're seeing right now that Najee is going to suit up. Didn't see an injury designation for him. But again, that's a very difficult situation. I do like the matchup for Najee going up against the Falcons. Jalen Warren, if Najee sits, you can fire him up if he's going to be off the hamstring injury that he's been dealing with. Pat Freiermuth, the Muth, he gets a mid-level risk for me. I like Pat Freiermuth a lot. He's a very safe tight end. Anywhere from 8 to 12 points per week you're getting from the Muth, man. Fire him up everywhere you got him. San Francisco 49ers taking on those Miami Dolphins. Coach versus coach, student versus teacher. You got to love it, man. Jimmy G, mid-level risk, because I do believe, they're going to try to run the ball, even though Christian McCaffrey is dealing with knee issues, knee soreness, knee swelling, and they said he's good to go, man. It was just maybe precautionary, but, we've come to expect this from Christian McCaffrey. If he's suiting up, you're playing him. Low-level risk for Christian. They lost Eli Mitchell to a knee injury. Once again, that poor guy just can't stay healthy. 6 to 8 weeks. His season is basically done. Debo dealing with a quad injury now. It has been a season of injuries for Debo, not high-end productivity like we had anticipated. 115.3 points for Debo. Just, he killed y'all, man, for where you drafted him. Just sucks for the top end. He's just been dealing with injuries this year. Brandon Ayuk does get a low-level risk. You're going to fire up Samuel, I should say, if he does suit up, obviously. Brandon Ayuk, low-level risk. I think, with how Debo is hurting, with how Christian McCaffrey could be hurting, we could see an expanded role for Brandon Ayuk once again. He's got 5 booms this year. Leads the team, 125 fantasy points for the wide receiver rooms. He's been doing very well. I told y'all to grab him in the redraft leagues this offseason, and he's repaying you now, and I think it's going to be his day versus the Miami Dolphins, as will likely George Kittle. If Debo is that hurt, they may, not utilize him as much. It could be the Ayuk and Kittle show versus the Miami Dolphins defense that, is gashable as well. So we'll see, man. They're high opportunity, high blitzing defense in Miami, but man, the teacher in Kyle Shanahan should know how to exploit his former student prodigy, man. The Seattle Seahawks taking on the LA Rams and Geno Smith. The Seahawks have seen better days overall. This is a get-right game for them. No Aaron Donald. So many injuries for the LA Rams. It's basically just Jalen Ramsey on the field, and he's getting cooked worse than sliced bread out there as well. Geno, low-level risk. We got Kenneth Walker III. Give him a stud start for me. I'm firing him up everywhere you got him. Geno, you can trust this week as well as you can with DK Metcalf and a Tyler Lockett. Both earn low-level risks for me. They've been very consistent. 131 to 116 for Lockett and Metcalf, respectively. You can't hate it, man. Geno's been dealing the ball ball all over the field, and as long as Kenneth Walker gets his ground game going, the play-action pass will work, and Geno's going to start firing dimes all over the field. Will Disley, Noah Fant, I do not like it. They just have been bust all season long. Outside of a few contests, you can't trust it. Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on those New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. Tom Brady, mid-level risk. Rumors that he could come back to New England. I don't buy it for 1 second. Stop it, man. Mid-level risk. New Orleans Saints defense still is decent enough to keep Tom Brady in check, but he should be getting Leonard Fournette back, who is got a mid-level risk coming off the stinger. I still do like a Rachaad White this week as a low-level risk over Leonard Fournette. White looked very good last week. I'd be shocked if they go back to Uncle Lenny a lot more than they do White. Should see at least a 60-40, if not 50-50 split, but I do like White rushing upside a lot more than Leonard Fournette this week. Mike Evans, low-level risk, as well as a Chris Godwin. Fire both these men up. What do we see every time Mike Evans goes up against the Saints? He's fighting someone, so maybe do not start Mike Evans. I'm kidding. You got to play him, but I mean, he's going to get ejected at some point fighting Marshawn Lattimore on the field. But I do like Evans and Godwin this week. Fire those two individuals up. Julio Jones has that low floor, and Cade Otton is a high risk once again. Can't trust it now that Julio's back in the mix, that wide receivers are healthy. They're finding new run upside in the rush game with Rachaad White. Cade Otton goes back down the board and is not trusted commodity even in full PPR leagues like I promoted earlier on this season. The Tennessee Titans taking on those Philadelphia Eagles. Ryan Tannehill, high risk. He's going to see the bum rush come at him from this front seven of the Eagles, who is just, relentless at coming after the quarterback. Do not start Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry, stud start, though, because the Eagles do give up early and often first and second quarter rush yards, and I do believe Derrick Henry's quite angry with himself for, fumbling that ball before he got into the end zone. Got a little lazy. He thought he was in clean, but he fumbled the ball and killed our 7 points. We could add more for King Henry, but fire up King Henry. Obviously, very high stud start. He's going to be able to run the ball decently well against this Eagles defense that is gashable on the ground. Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, low floor. You're not touching it. Treylon Burks, mid-level risk, as well as a Westbrook Akina. I do believe the mid-level risk. He's got enough points. You're not firing up any of these guys except for Treylon Burks and a Derrick Henry. Unless you're desperate beyond measure, then you're firing up at Westbrook Akina. But I'm just saying mid-level risk because he's starting to get some, opportunities to come his way. You just can't start him in an important week like Week 13 of fantasy football. As is Austin Hooper, high-level risk. Look away. Do not touch that at all. Last one off. Finish it off with the Washington Commanders, the Commies, the New York Giants going up against the New York Giants, I should say. Tyler Heineke. Giants are slipping. Washington Commanders are rising. And, Heineke is the reason, man. He's playing very safe football, spreading the ball around decently enough. Mid-level risk. Again, he's just a trusted guy you're going to get 12 to 15 from every single week. That's what Heineke's going to do, and he's not turning the ball over. It's a very big positive if you're looking for just that safety point of, fantasy production, man. Antonio Gibson dealing with a foot injury. He is a questionable tag. I got a mid-level risk for him. That's kind of why we saw Brian Robinson take over some of the reins last week. I do like Brian Robinson again as a low risk this week where Antonio does got a mid-level. I'm comfortable firing up both these men at your running back spot this week, as is Terry McLaurin, low-level risk, even though it is the fourth best pass defense in the NFL for fantasy points to wide receivers. Terry McLaurin is Heineke's number one guy, so I'm okay firing up Terry this week. Mid-levels for Curtis Samuel, high-level risk for Jahan Dotson and Logan Thomas. You just can't trust it. Not enough, aptitude in the arm of Tyler Heineke to support Jahan Dotson and Logan Thomas once he's done dealing to Terry and Curtis. So, you got to take it with what it is. Heineke's a decent talent, just doesn't have enough to support all those pieces for you in week number 13. So there you have it. That is start sit for this week number 13. 2 weeks left. Get those victories. 2 wins in a row. Set your lineups right, and we will get there, I'm telling y'all. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your start sit questions. I will definitely answer you back, but we'll see you next time. I am out.